Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, as often happens on Chef AJ Live, one guest is referred by another, and today's guest, Shelley Watts, was referred by a previous guest who you all know, Brittany Giroudi. She likes to think of herself as all plants, all the time. Please welcome her to the show. It's nice to meet you, Shelley.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Chef AJ. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, I took a peek at the slides you're going to share, so I kind of see something in the pictures that's going to make a great story. But why don't you tell everyone your story when you became vegan or plant-based? Why? So what was your journey?
Okay, my journey was I will be fully plant-based June 24th this year for 4 years. And it started because I had serious health problems, diabetes, type 2, high cholesterol, high blood pressure for many, many years. Was on several medications. Nothing was really getting better. I really put a lot of it to the fact that, I had a high stress job. I was a high school, public school teacher for 36 years. And it was like, well, you have a stress job. So therefore, I gave myself permission to just eat whatever I wanted. I've considered myself a sugar addict for since childhood because I've always gravitated towards sweets and lots of them. And things were just getting progressively worse. I retired and then continued to eat crap. And I thought, why are you doing this when you now don't have the excuse of, having a high stress job? You're retired. I don't have a husband. I don't have pets. I don't have children. So I thought, what stress?
That's
So
funny because yeah, people when I see people live alone, like they can't have a clean environment, and I'm like, but you live alone.
and it's super clean now because I'm high conscientious. But prior to all of that, I really knew things were, they were just getting worse. And my family has longevity. My grandmother made it to 96, my mother 88. My father is currently 99 years old, just had a birthday, and doing well for 99. So it was like, well, you're going to live to see 100. And one day it occurred to me, it was like, well, why bother living to 100 if you're going to be in a nursing home in a diaper or no leg or can't see? So I finally decided to do something about it and, got on the internet like most people and started looking up things. And this is where I give God the praise because I was led like to your website and then you interviewed Dr. Nathan Gershfeld and then I was directly with Dr. Nathan Gershfeld. So it was like, oh, that shouldn't have happened quite like that, but it did. And Robbie Barbero and Cyrus Kambata with the Mastering Diabetes program. Again, those two things really got me on the path. And so I just jumped in 110%. I went to Nathan's for a fast. And I was just simply amazed that in 10 days, he was able to get me off medications that I had been on for 25, 30 years.
That's incredible. So was like fasting almost like your first point of entry?
Yeah, it was. I kind of thought, well, if you're going to do this, let's just go all in. I wasn't sure. I knew I had to leave my house. I did know that. It was like, you can't pull this off in this space, in this town at this time. And it was like, just go away somewhere where somebody really knows what they're doing and can help you. And so that's was the choice. True North I did consider because I had heard of it, but I kind of thought, well, that might be a little too busy for me. I thought I needed kind of smaller and more intimate. So when I saw your interview with Nathan, it was like, well, I think I'm going there.
Well, that's good to know that people watch the show and that yeah, I love to hear things
Yeah.
like that. Had you ever heard of a vegan or a plant-based diet or even medically supervised therapeutic water fasting before you started Googling?
No, I knew none of this, and you're going to chuckle. I'm a retired home ec teacher, so I actually taught nutrition, but not correct nutrition, now based on what I know. Um,
What
so
did you
just,
teach, if I may ask? I'm curious because when I went to junior high in 1971, unbelievable,
uh-huh.
they had home ec and I loved it. And then they actually in the state of California got rid of it. And I thought it was amazing because that's where I learned skills like sewing and cooking.
Mhm. And we still did that. That was the main thing. The nutrition to me was not as accurate as what I know now, but there was still a decent nutrition course was taught and sewing as well. I did both over the years. Pardon me, I also did what they called living skills. So I taught people how to do a checkbook or buy a car or get their first apartment. So I was always surprised when people were like, well, you don't need home ec. I'm thinking, yes, you do. Mine's the one class that actually teaches you how to live.
Absolutely.
So
What did you teach in the cooking segment?
I taught, we kind of went through just units, like we'd have a vegetable one, we'd have a meat one, we'd have a dessert unit. So we kind of did it by categories and we would go through the steps involved to prepare food. So they had to learn baking and frying and stir frying and those kinds of things and equipment. So, because in the beginning, they would be mad at me that they weren't cooking day one. And it would be like, well, you have to learn a few things before we actually cook.
I wonder if things would be different in the way you taught the curriculum had you gotten this information before you retired.
I know it would. I think it would have been an amazing unit to do a plant-based unit. And I'm retired now, but I still feel like I teach. After I learned, and I jumped in 110%. I was watching summits and interviews and all of your stuff and Robbie and Cyrus's things. And, when I went to Nathan's, he had his lectures a couple of times a week. And just every day, having the meals at first, it was just such a learning experience. It was so eye-opening to find out, we're eating crap and it's just not a good idea.
Well, as long as you're admitting to it, what kind of crap did you eat? Because don't worry, no judgment here. I used to drink Coke Slurpees every day till I was 43 for breakfast.
Well, and I know that about you, and I'm not too far behind you. I was Frosted Flakes with like probably a third cup of sugar added to the bowl and whole milk. And things changed over the years. I would do switch to pudding, or it would be ice cream cones, or it would be candy. But whatever it was that I was hooked on at any given time, I would just eat and eat and eat and eat that until I was, just about ready to explode. And I would continue to eat some more. And so I now realize that was a very heavy sugar addiction. And I was somehow proud of that, which I look back now and find scary that, I would say, well, I can eat 24 ice cream cones. I'm like, why would you boast about that?
Oh my.
So, but I have actually done that. I've eaten 24 ice cream cones in a 24-hour period of time.
Okay, I'm glad it was a 24-hour period instead
Yeah. Yeah, I
of.
did start like the night before and ended like the
Oh, yeah.
afternoon of the next day, but it was just like, okay, why are you doing that?
Well,
Why are
did
you
did
doing
did
that?
you suffer any consequences? You mentioned you were on medicine for 25 years,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing, did you have extra weight at the time?
Yep, I went from very slim and slender in high school and into college, and then over that probably first 15 to 20 years I taught, I went up to 240 pounds. I put on 70 pounds.
Wow.
My normal healthy weight would be about 140, 150 to 160 pounds because I'm about 5'10". But I just ate every year. I ate more and more and more, and the higher the stress. We had a little candy station in the faculty room, and my classroom was right next to it. So every day I'd go over and put my 25 cents in the jar and get a pack of M&Ms. And I was getting the peanut M&Ms. And so by the time the end of the school year completed, I was at like 4 to 5 packs of M&Ms per day at the job.
Regular or peanut?
peanut. I was
Yes,
doing
of course.
peanut.
That's the right answer.
Of course. So, and it was just like, and I'm slowly putting on weight. And again, I was a home ec teacher who could sew. So I think I was actually adjusting the clothes and not really noticing, okay, you've put on some weight here,
Yeah.
you know.
What grades were you teaching? Was it
I
high
was
school,
high
middle
school
school?
home ec, 9th through 12th.
What was the food like that they fed the students? Like, was there a cafeteria? Did they bring their lunch? I'm curious how the children were eating.
Yeah, crap, more crap. I mean, I look at it now, there was pizza. It was like a cycle of about probably 2 to 3 weeks worth of menus, and it would be pizza or burgers or chicken, like a baked chicken patty thing with a breading on it. There was a salad, but not much of it. There was always a milk on the, menu and an ice, a dessert. Um, very few whole vegetables or fruits were available. It was mostly prepackaged, so it just, I thought, no wonder children are the way they are in class because look what they're eating, you know.
Did how many years were you teaching?
I did 36. I did the full
Wow,
36 years.
that's amazing. Are we allowed to ask your age? Because you mentioned your dad
Yes,
was 99,
yes,
so I'm
you
guessing.
are. I will be 70 in November. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, I could have sworn 20 years less than that, but that's amazing. So I wonder, in the 36 years you were teaching, did you notice any change in the students? Like, did they start getting larger as well?
Yeah, larger and mentally. That's what I think at the time I could not have told you exactly what's going on. I wasn't connecting the dots as well. But I think back to decisions and choices and, answering questions on a test, those kinds of things. It's like some children had quite a lot of difficulty doing that. And I'm thinking, well, if you're eating sugar all day and skipping breakfast and not sleeping well, you're not going to do well as a student,
Yeah.
which is it's sad,
You'd
it's
think
sad
they'd make the
that's
link,
happening.
make the connection, you know?
Yeah, because there are some I've been informed now that there are some districts that understand that and actually do have a chef and healthy foods being prepared for children,
That's
you know.
fantastic.
And they see test scores come up and more, they're more focused, they can answer questions, they can reason, they can solve a problem, which is really nice to see, that happening.
Yeah. There's a school when I used to live in Los Angeles called the Muse School, founded by Susie Amos, the wife of the director James Cameron. And it's basically a plant-based school, and you don't have to be plant-based to come there,
Yeah.
but that's all that's allowed on the campus, and that's all they serve the students.
Thank goodness it's actually happening in places.
That's something. That
Yeah.
is amazing. Well, so you used to like Frosted Flakes for breakfast. What's your breakfast now?
It's steamed vegetables.
Hey,
My
that's kind of
favorite
what I eat too.
my favorite is Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, and then there'll be some like spinach or kale. I get throw that on the top like the last minute or two. But
Well,
I'm a
that's a far
steamed,
cry from Tony the Tiger.
yep, big bowl of steamed vegetables and then salads. And I still like my starches. So sweet potatoes and Yukon Golds are my favorite potatoes. So
Oh,
I
you like
like
you. I like
to.
you. Of the white potatoes, I think I like Yukon Gold's the best, but my favorite is the sweet potato, though the Hannah, though, not the orange.
And it took me a while to find that because you always made reference to that. And I thought, well, what is the Hannah yam? So I'm all over the place trying to find that. And I like the Hannah yams. I also like the Japanese purple sweet potato. That's
Oh
even
yeah.
like
Oh, those are fantastic
sweeter.
too.
Yeah. So I'm
Fantastic.
hooked on those.
Yeah. What it was interesting because you said that in your school they kept doing home ec. I only am familiar with what was taught in California, but I remember before I got to high school, physical education was stopped too. Like they just didn't have it anymore. They didn't have PE or gym. Did they have that at your school?
They still did in my district. It just got reduced so much though, because I, kind of hung out with some of the phys ed teachers and they'd be, you had 40 minutes to get kids dressed out the door to do a little softball or something, and then back in and they have to shower and change. So you're really exercising maybe 15 minutes out of the 40, or 20 minutes out of the 40.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, and just so many districts cut home ec or music or art, to me the other, subjects that I think really feed children's spirit, and they
Yeah.
were just, money, like the budget came first.
Those are always my favorite classes. Anything that was the elective, calligraphy.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I just wish we could have just done electives and not not the boring stuff, math, science,
Yeah.
which that's so funny. Hey,
Yeah.
I know that you prepared a little bit of a presentation for us. Do you want me to start sharing the screen? What?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I'll go
Okay,
through that.
I can do
I
that
have
for you.
mine printed, so I think I can go
Yep,
through
there
here.
you go. You just tell me when to advance it. Oops, let me get
Okay,
it full
yep.
screen mode. Yeah.
This one was done. I did a presentation, and my sister's a college professor at a local college in Pennsylvania. And so I did a presentation for her students. So that's why you see the date there, and you can go on to the next slide. And this was kind of all my bullet points that I, elaborated a bit on. I was extremely arrogant about food. I just chose to eat badly and continue to eat badly and made excuses for eating badly and was even proud of eating badly. And I look back on that time with some sadness, but I had to go through what I had to go through. So I overate in all of those categories of the sugar, salt, and fat. I had type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and things were just getting worse. I would have blurry vision some mornings. I had inflammation all through my body. I, over the years, had packed on a full 70 plus pounds there. And I finally, prayed and, kind of got with God and said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Do you want to be in a nursing home? Do you want to be dead? Do you want to actually live life and have some fun? And so, as soon as I made that decision, things really did fall into place. Like the Mastering Diabetes Summit showed up kind of just magically on my computer. And I will, give props to Robbie and Cyrus. They really know their stuff and they really care and help people a great deal. So their book, Mastering Diabetes, I highly recommend for anybody who's got diabetes. And, I just started researching and just books and articles and interviews, and people just kind of all fell into place. And from there, I kind of made a plan and I knew science now. I do now, like, really don't make too many decisions now without some science backing them up. And I thought rather than me struggle to try to figure out what the plan should be, it was like, why don't I go to somebody who actually has a plan? And so you can move on to the next slide there. And that's Shelley at, I think, 13, 12, 13. In the middle picture, that's Shelley as a lifeguard at 16, 17. And then the third picture is Shelley in her early 20s. So, and they're kind of faded because they are old, but I tried to scan them and, get them into the system. And you can go on to the
So
next
it looks
slide.
like you did not start out overweight.
No, I didn't. I was a stick. I was a stick, and but I ate a lot of food early on in life. And so it finally didn't actually start to catch up to me until like mid 20s, going into late 20s. But I was always this heavy eater of food. If everybody else had one baked potato, I wanted three baked potatoes. So
But that's what's so great about calorie densities. You can have
Yeah.
baked potatoes as long as you don't put butter or cheese or oil on them. Yeah.
And I was doing all of that. My baked potato, of course, was loaded with things. Now I eat, baked potato without anything on it and love them.
They're so
And
good.
it's amazing how the taste buds change, isn't it?
And they can change. And that's why we got to give people hope that it doesn't happen overnight, but it really can happen for you too, I believe.
Yep. So, and next slide.
Okay. Ooh,
And
yes, you were. Oh,
that's
that's
me
not.
at the highest weight.
Yeah.
And I look at those two pictures and I look at all that around my neck, in the larger picture there. And I thought, okay, Shelley, and again, I'm standing there like I'm proud to be that size, and I thought, wow. But that to me is how bad sugar is in the brain. You really don't think well. I think back to decisions and choices I made. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I now look back and know that was the sheer level of bad food in my body all the time. My brain was struggling to try to do the right thing.
How much weight did you lose and how long did it take you to lose it?
I lost 70 altogether. I lost 20 at the retreat doing the fast. I fasted 17 days. He fed me well. He fed me well. I'll say that about my buddy, my favorite Dr. Nate. He fed me well for 10 days, salads and vegetables 3 times a day, and that brought off about 6, 7, 8 pounds and got me off the medications. And then we started the fast and did that 17 days, and that dropped about another, like, 8 to 10 pounds off. And some of that went back on, when I went back home and started eating. But consistently, weight was coming off because I went 100% into a plant-based diet after that. You know, I had
Wow.
my last burger like 3 weeks before I saw Nathan and said goodbye to it, enjoyed it. And then I kind of thought when I did the fast, it was like, well, maybe you'll, go back to meat when you're done, maybe every now and then, a special occasion. And by the third day of the fast, it was like, I don't think I ever want meat again. So that the fasting to me made it easier to make the choices, the better
Yep.
choices
That's
that
what
I made.
Dr. Goldhammer says. What have your friends and family said about your transformation?
Well, I kept it a big fat secret. Nobody knew I was going. I swore my sister to secrecy. And so people thought I had a drug problem. People thought I was away and at rehab. I got quite a few different stories of what people thought was going on. I came back home though, and I looked so different. Like, I mean, the weight had just come off of me, and I was impressed myself. It was like, wow, my dad, my brother looked at me, and my brother said, I thought you had a drug problem. I was like, no, I didn't have a drug problem. I
That's
said, well, I
funny.
did. It was sugar. Um,
So in a way, you did have a drug problem.
yeah, so I did have a drug problem, but people were like completely blown away. A lot of people did ask what I had done. And I get the reaction now of, well, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, you don't have to do what I did, but do something, make some serious hard choices and actually take some steps towards better health.
Yeah.
And it is challenging, but it is doable.
Well,
So,
I always like the saying, just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you can't do anything.
yeah. Yeah, yes, you do say that, and I like that. It's a very good statement to make. And I just think you can do stuff. I think my sister and brother both now going into year 4 have actually made a few changes. I'm so proud and excited for both of them. My brother called me one day and said, well, how do you make those potatoes you make? And because he knows there's nothing in them but the potatoes. And so I gave him the recipe, and my jaw just about dropped. I thought, well, Howard's asking for a recipe from his sister.
Oh,
So
my.
I was,
What,
I
what,
was
what did
quite,
your dad think of your transformation?
my dad was like, wow. And he's still like I think has thought, well, why doesn't she eat meat? I don't think he quite gets, why I gave things up, but he understands I show up to his house. Because I'm single, I travel with food, I prepare food that I eat to go with me when I go places. So I visit him on a regular basis, and I take my big lunch bag with me, and he goes, "Oh wow," because of course I've got this huge bowl of vegetables, and he's got like, two pieces of lettuce and, a little small piece of meat and a bun or a roll or something, and a cookie. My dad always eats a cookie, so, and I don't eat any of those things now. So
Wow. What what was the hardest thing, if anything, to give up? The Frosted Flakes, the
the hardest I think is the sugar. And because it changed over the years with what was my favorite sugary thing, I can't say that there's one in particular. The final thing that I was eating was a candy that had like nuts and caramel and chocolate or milk chocolate in it, and it was chewy. And so that combination was like I could eat like 100 of those. It was like, okay, you cannot have any of these anymore. And I think the fast really helped because I don't desire these things. It's pretty rare now. It's pretty rare, and I think it's now 4 years, so that's been helpful. Every now and then I will see something and think, "Oh, wow, I do miss that." And then it's like, it's okay, you've got really good food, and I could cook before, so I think I cook as well, if not better now.
absolutely.
I season with vinegars and spices, and I always could season food. I always did season food well, even as a cook of the former way. But it's like now I use a bunch of flavored vinegars, which I found out from Chef AJ, California
Well,
Balsamics.
you're going to get 2 free bottles of the flavor of your choice. Some people come on the show just for the free vinegar.
And I like when you first showed him, I thought, well, I'm gonna order some of these, and Dr. Furman's got some as well.
Mhm.
So, I have some of those. And the very original one you showed on one of your cooking shows in your former living habitat, it was can't think of the name of it now, but it was a thicker. I remember it was really thick, and you said it was like 4%,
Yep. That's what gives it that nice,
Yeah.
stick-to-itiveness on the veggies
Yeah, and I
salad.
was like, "Oh, I had that all over the Brussels sprouts." It was like, "Well, this is good." I thought, "I can eat this."
That's fantastic.
So, yep, and, just so many things I learned, I was gonna say, I guess we can probably jump to the next slide
Well, you know
here.
what they say, Shelley, when the student's ready, the
Yep,
teacher appears.
yep, and one of my best teachers was Nathan, and then Luz Correa, who was the chef at Fasting Escape at the time. She had these just little mini lessons like almost every day. It was like how to prep, how to use this, how to take one vegetable and make it in 4 different ways. It was just, I learned so much there. So I want to honor her as well. She just, it was a phenomenal thing that I learned all that. And I had such a solid base to take back home. It was like, okay, I knew all the science stuff from Nathan. I knew how to take care of my body. I knew how to cook, so I feel like I was really set up to be successful, as Dr. Lyle would say, get the environment right. I came right home and it was like, boom, like let's change out the kitchen here. And I had, I was a cook, so I had pots and pans and knives and all that. I kind of got rid of a few things and added a few things, kind of reworked where things were in my kitchen. And I was off and running. I was off and running. But from the chart here, you can see I did the before and after on a chart so people could actually
Wow, look at the
see.
difference in monthly
Look at the
medication.
difference. Yeah.
Can I ask okay, so I'm guessing you probably were on blood pressure medication?
Yep. I was on 2 blood pressure medications. I was on 4 diabetes medications. I was on a water pill.
Wow.
And the 14.0 AC1, A1C, sorry, is like, I knew that was bad, but I really didn't know how bad that was until I heard some other doctors talk about A1C, and Dr. Nathan actually used me as an example in one of his interviews. And when he shared that with the interviewer, they gasped like out loud. And I thought, well, how bad is 14? I thought, oh my goodness, 14 is like almost like I could have been dead, you know. So
So
I'm pretty
you
proud
might,
of myself that I'm down to 5.6 now.
and in a lot of ways, you might have been a ticking time bomb if you hadn't made some changes.
Yeah. Well, I think I said to Nate, I said, I think I'm alive because of you. I think that I would have had another 6 months to a year. I would have either massively stroked out or full heart attack or died. I think I was that close to all that when I look back now at how bad my health was, you know.
Wow.
So
Well, we
I'm
should
pretty
put all the
proud of those numbers.
we should make sure that in the show notes for this show, we put all of his information so people that want to get in touch with him
Yeah.
fast or a
Yep.
consultation, they can.
Yeah, and he's smart. He's very kind. He's very caring about his patients, but he's an excellent problem solver, which I feel like he always credits Dr. Goldhammer, and I think, that's a skill set you have because, everybody who came to the retreat, we all had various problems, and he had to kind of be sharp and figure out, okay, what's going on? Why are they reacting this way? And how to help. Because my crazy story is that I was standing up in a room talking to another person who was at the retreat at the time, and we're just yakking away that afternoon, and I'm on my feet like probably a good 40 minutes, and all of a sudden my heart's pounding and racing, my heartbeat's racing. I'm thinking, what's happening? What's happening? We called Dr. Nathan. He comes running up. He goes, well, what were you doing? What were you doing? I was like, nothing. I've just been standing here talking to my friend here. And he goes, you can't stand and be fasting. So I thought, okay, Shelley, sit down.
Wow.
So he
How
kind of
long of a stay did you have at the fasting escape?
I did 35 days the first one. I went out, and because we got the blood pressure almost normal, and he kind of suggested at the time, he said, if you could do a few more days, he said that would probably bring it, really bring it down to a really good level. So I called the travel agent and said, can you change my flight and, the hotel and all of that? And she did, and I stayed like another week. So
Had you ever heard of fasting before?
no, I hadn't. I hadn't. I mean, I was kind of vaguely aware people fast, like, for religious reasons or something, but it was like I really knew nothing about fasting because when I arrived that day, I didn't even realize you can't be on medication and fast. And so that's why I ended up being fed for 10 days just to bring everything down enough to get me off meds so I could fast.
Wow. Was it hard fasting?
No, people say I shouldn't say it like that. Day 1.5 into day 2 was challenging because it was like, how am I going to go? I mean, I ate all the time, so it's like, how am I going to make it 10 minutes, let alone a day? And I stayed in bed that day. I said, let's just stay in bed. Let's just chill. Let's not watch TV. And I got through lunch and I got through dinner. And then I thought, well, let's just go to bed early. And the next day, I'm not a big morning breakfast person anyway. So I thought, well, I can make it through the morning time. And by lunch, I was kind of thinking, I'd like to eat, but it's like, well, let's just try to keep going. And so I made it to dinner that next day, and then it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to be okay. And he had explained that your brain will kind of shift off, once it realizes you're not going to feed it. And it did, because I thought, well, that doesn't really happen, but it actually did. By the second, third day, I was like, I can make it a couple of days. And he and I had our little joke because he'd come up to, check my vitals, and I would be, doctor, I can give you till 5 days now. And he'd be, well, let's just see how it goes, and I'd be, I can give you 5 days. So we would laugh about that. And then when I made it to the fifth day, I was like, I can do 10 days. And he was just like, "We'll see." And I thought, "No, I can do 10 days." So then I got to 10. And then when I got to 10, I thought I can get to 15. And it just got easier each day because you don't really think about food, you know?
Incredible, especially for someone that's never done it to just take a leap of faith like that.
Yeah. And I did. And I thought when I went, I did go with the attitude of, I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do, even if it sounds strange to me, And
Had you read
so
any books from any of the plant-based people?
no, I hadn't. I actually found out about I'll flash the magazine here, the National Health Association, because he had their magazines there. And so I read those while I was, relaxing and resting. And then who knew, like 2 years later, I would actually end up in the magazine, which I thought was so cool. So cool. So yeah, those are the slides of the numbers. And then I think I have some pictures there of food. You can jump to the next slide, Chef
Oh,
AJ.
wait, hey, you're a rock and roller?
That's me. I went out to the conference last year and we went over to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Ohio. And I again, I'm excited for life. I laugh. I have joy. I have positive feelings. And I was a very negative, Debbie Downer, depressed type person. I was always Miss Doom and Gloom. I was never excited about anything. It was just like, let's just trudge through the day. Let's just go to my job and get this done. So this is Shelley. I call her Shelley 2.0 now. Because Shelley 1.0 was pretty miserable. You would not have wanted to hang around me for 5 minutes, let alone, any amount of time. So the lady I took the tour with, she took this picture of me and I thought, this is the way I am now. Like I'm fun and excited and let's do this and let's go there.
I know you've been retired for a few years, but did any of your former coworkers or students get a glimpse of you?
Yeah, people didn't even recognize me. I ran into a colleague and she and I were pretty close at school. And I saw her at a store one day and I said, "Hi." And she looked at me like, "I have no idea who you are." And I thought, okay, you really have changed in the way you look, Shelley.
Funny.
So yeah, and I had to tell her who I was. I had to tell her who I was. She was like, "Oh my goodness." She was just like in shock. She really didn't believe it.
That
So
is funny when if somebody doesn't recognize you.
yeah, so you can move on there. Thanks, Chef
Mhm.
AJ, for pushing the button there.
Oh yeah, I've been doing this for years. My finger is very good at this. Ooh,
That
if that's
that
your
is my
breakfast, that
food.
looks if that's
That's
your
my
breakfast,
food.
that looks delicious.
That's the sweet potato and Brussels sprouts. That's a breakfast thing. I do my own flavored waters. I finally one day was like, well, I'd like some flavored, like carbonated water. And um, I thought, well, it's just water and fruit and spice, and some herbs. Like, why pay $2.99 for a can? And the fruit salad at the bottom is my take on Chef Bravo's fruit salad. So it's got cilantro and onions, and I think 5 fruits are in there. Some peaches and watermelon, pineapples, grapes, and I forget the last one. But I saw him do a little video, and I thought, well, who would put onion with watermelon? And a fruit and it's going to taste good, and it actually does. So
It
I
looks
stole his
delicious.
I stole his recipe.
I'm sure he's probably okay with that.
Yep. So, and I actually sent him an email and said something, and he responded back, and that really was touching to me. I was like, oh, that's so nice. And I thought, and while we're on it, I will give kudos to the other chef that I follow and make stuff from. I got the book. I might have to mail it to you, Chef AJ, so you can autograph it.
Aw, thank you. That looks like infused water in the upper right-hand corner.
I know. It is. It's just, when especially summer comes, I'll get the fruits. I'm very blessed in that I'm near Lancaster County, which is farmland in Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of access to fresh fruits and vegetables from really April all the way to about October, you know. And
Nice.
so when it
How far are you from Philly?
I'm about 2 hours from Philly, about 4.5 from Pittsburgh. So,
Oh, wow.
and 10 minutes from Hershey Park if you care about chocolate. So, and you can go on to the next
Oh,
slide here.
that's
I think, yep,
beautiful. Are
yep.
those purple green beans?
Purple green beans,
I've
which
never
is
seen
pretty,
them.
they're only kind of, they show up for a short period of time and then they disappear. And then they disappear. So, but again, another fruit salad. The dish with the mixture is what I eat a lot. I always just kind of have some combination of vegetables and I steam or roast them and throw the vinegar on and the spices on and have a big bowl of them.
God, that's beautiful.
So next slide. They're
What is
all,
your food? Oh, you're making microwave potato chips.
this is my mic because I love potato chips. And I thought, well, I'm not giving up potato chips. So these have like a garlic seasoning on them, no salt at all, and no oil. And they're delicious.
Yeah,
And I
really
don't
good.
overeat them because I'm slicing, like one potato at a time on a mandolin, And so
And also without the sugar, oil, and salt to stimulate you, you don't overeat the same way.
yeah, yeah. So every now and then I'll get a couple Yukon Golds and say, okay, it's time for potato chips. And my bake item over there, that got me through the Christmas the first year. Um, I um, I was terrified to go to my parents' house because it was going to be cookies, pies, cakes, and the whole bit. They were going to be out visible the whole time. I had to be there for 3 days over the Christmas holiday. And so I made, this is nothing but oatmeal and fruit and cinnamon. And, I just cook, as I say, I cook the crap out of the fruit in a big pot, and then I throw in the oatmeal and stir it around and put it in a baking dish. And so I took 3 big pans of that with me, and I ate that while everybody else ate cookies and things. And my sister was very kind that she had kind of all the sugary stuff moved to a side table so it wasn't out in front of my face the whole time at
Mm.
Christmas. And
Well,
I
that's
had a
nice
really
that
nice Christmas.
I was going to say it's nice that your family's supportive.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm saddened when I hear that, like I've been at retreats now with women who are married and they're like, "Oh, my husband, he doesn't eat this way and he's like wants me to make him, meat every day." And I'm thinking, "Wow, that is, like, support your wife, buddy. And I'm not married, so I get that that can be way more challenging than I'm, making it sound. But I wish couples would do that.
Absolutely. Looks like cake, your baked oatmeal.
Yeah, I wanted it to be pliable and yet have a little bit of a crunch on the top, so I kind of over bake it and I kind the ratio of oatmeal to fruit is the oatmeal's higher, so I get more of a breaded type, dish.
Do you have any written recipes if people wanted to know how to make these?
I did finally write this one up because so many people were asking, well, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I was like, it's fruit and oatmeal. It's just fruit and oatmeal. Fruit,
Well,
oatmeal, and cinnamon. And so yes, I did. I just take about 2 apples, 2 bananas, and two of some other fruit. I cut them up, I put them in a pot and cook them till they're like almost like applesauce consistency and throw in a little cinnamon, and then I dump just, oatmeal in raw and stir it around till it's kind of, so it's moist. And then in a baking dish and in the oven, 350 for, 45 minutes to an hour.
if you do have it written up, can we put it in the show notes? Because
Yeah, I think I can send that to you then, Chef AJ. I think I can do that because at some point it was like people kept asking. I thought, okay, maybe we should write that down somewhere.
absolutely, people love a good recipe like that.
And it's just simple. It's just fruit and oatmeal. So,
like portable oats.
yeah, portable oats. Yep. So, and you can go to the next slide. I think I had, that's what I don't eat because people are like, well, what do you eat? So this is what I don't eat. So all of the things I just recently have added bread back into, and
Oh,
again, a little bit of it I found.
really? Okay, not a slippery slope for you, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna test it and see. I'm gonna, as Dr. Lau would say, I'm gonna run the
What an
experiment.
experiment. What kind of bread did you add?
I bought an Ezekiel, and I just saw your thing
Yeah, the
on.
pacha bread. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I think I might order a loaf of that because I do want like a healthy bread if I'm going to do bread at all. I used to make sandwiches that were piled with ham and cheese and slathered with mayo. And so that's why I kind of think, okay, bread's not a good idea for me. But I thought, well, avocado toast every now and then is not a bad idea. So that's the current experiment we are running. So, okay, and next
for
slide.
you.
And that's my tips. It's like, I know people who work and have children and pets can't do all the time I did. And I thought, hey, give me a call. I'll give you the short version of, the 2 hour interview I just listened to. Um, and, pick something, because people are like, I can't do what you did. Pick one thing, just pick one thing and then actually do it. And I like that idea of, striving to do your best, but not perfect. Now, I tend to be a real conscientious, so I am striving for perfection and not succeeding all the time. But because it's me, I don't have to worry about, feeding other people. So that makes my life easier. My environment's pretty tight in this house. So, and learn to do it or take a class or watch that because people keep saying to me, well, don't you want to cook for me or make some? It's like, no, there's like 10 billion, videos on how to do all of this. So, because I recommend yours, Chef Bravo's, Dylan, Well Your World, and Brittany's. Those to me are the four main ones I watch pretty regularly, especially if I want to learn how to do something new. And I know, again, some people don't live near local markets, but if you live near farmers markets or you can get to them or you do a CSA. I've signed up for one that's about 40 miles from me and they deliver to my area like every Wednesday. So I'm getting organic produce every Wednesday for 36 weeks out the year. And that's costing me about $550. And I thought, well, I can live with that,
That's
you
right, because
know.
you don't have your monthly
Yeah,
medication
yeah,
fee anymore.
yeah. Because my medication went from what, $135 down to $7.
That big
And
savings.
that's the thing. I'm sure you notice it's like certain things I don't need anymore. Like I came out of the fast, like Listerine set my tongue on fire, just about. I didn't realize it was that strong. And when I had changed and my taste buds were more sensitive, it was just like, okay, not doing mouthwash anymore. And I'm so much healthier. It's like, well, it turns out I don't need mouthwash. I've had my dentist appointments. My dentist is like, your gums, your teeth are so much better. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not eating crap,
Yeah.
you know? So, and set up your environment, as they say over and over again. So those are the tips.
Hmm.
And then I think the last page, there's a page of like books. And oh, these are the good movies on Netflix that I highly recommend to
I'm
help
not
get
familiar with, I
started.
know the Game Changers, What's the Health and Cowspiracy, but I'm not familiar with Rotten or the C Word.
The C word was about cancer and again, the food, how it affects the body. And rotten, ooh, I have to think back on that one because it's been a while since
Maybe
I've done.
something with teeth.
I think that was something about how much food we're wasting. I really, I have to, that one I have a blank on right now. So.
I'll look it up real quick on Netflix and see if it's still there.
Yeah, and because I try to check these every now and then to make sure, like, are they still
Oh, yeah,
showing these?
Rotten. The docu-series about the heart of the food supply chain to reveal unsavory truths and expose hidden forces that shape what we eat. Does that sound about right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for checking.
Sure. And no forks over knives for you?
I did Forks Over Knives. I originally had like their program, and then it was kind of like, again, it's like, well, I can cook and I kind of know what I eat, and I've got my routine now. So I started so many things that first year, and it was kind of like, okay, like financially, you cannot sustain all of this, and time-wise, you can't sustain all this. So little by little, it's kind of like I've changed or added something or taken something away. So I thought I'll acknowledge now, like some people are not on the big list anymore. So, and then I think the next slide is that's my picture of my books like 2, 3 years ago. So, and that's what I was reading and recommending at the time. So,
Yep, I see the pleasure trap there in Barbara Roll's
and
book.
I think it was kind of like, I think yours wasn't out yet when I took the picture
Hmm,
because now I have it here. So.
thank you. Well, I had one out called The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss in 2016, I
Yeah.
believe.
And I don't know what happened. Like I think I knew about it and then I didn't get it. I apologize, Chef
Well,
AJ.
that's okay. No, that one, the one you have is, it's fine, but the one you have is more of a cookbook, but the other one is more of a weight loss book. It's about calorie density, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had done so many people's programs and then it was like, okay, you gotta kind of stop and slow down here and and get a grip here. So and then this is the other one. Oh, and it is in there, but Dr. Lau and Dr. Goldhammer, The Pleasure Trap. I highly recommend that one. And then,
Oh, I have that one right here too.
yeah. And the third one is The Mastering Diabetes with Robbie and Cyrus. I highly recommend that one. So, because especially anybody with diabetes, I'm thinking if this book is extremely helpful. And then their program even more so. So next slide. I think we're almost at the
Oh,
end here.
wow.
And there's my list. See, Chef AJ, you are in
Yay! I
there.
made the list.
You made
Yay!
the list. So, yeah, but all those are to me, because again, I think it's so overwhelming. There's so much out there, on the internet. It's like, what do you pick? What do what's junk? So this is the list of after my 3 years of watching multiple summits and multiple interviews and multiple courses or webinars. This is the group I recommend.
I
So
love it. I love it. All good people. All people that have been on the show, actually, now that I
yeah,
think
I
of it.
think everybody. Yeah, I was gonna say I think you've had them all on the show. So and everyone here is smart and knowledgeable and experienced.
Absolutely. Do you do any kind of continuing education now, like reread books, rewatch documentaries?
I sometime redo a summit. I originally that first year I was like buying everything, and then it was kind of like, okay, slow down. Like let's pick some things that are, really going to be helpful for the direction you're headed. And I'm retired. I have the time. So when a summit starts, I mean, they're generally 5 to 6, 7 days and 3 to 5 hours a day. I can literally sit and do that. And with my little notebook, take notes and some of them I buy and some of them I don't buy. And that's, how I've learned so much now. So I actually have kind of started to lean towards I'd like to help somebody, and people are like, oh, get on the internet, get your website, get a program, write a book. And I thought, that's not me. I'm a one-on-one kind of person. Um, so I feel like, God will lead me to that person. And, hopefully I really, and I'm great at organizing. So I actually want to go to somebody's kitchen and help them like reset that kitchen up. It's like, let me in there. Let's take everything out of the cabinets. Let's figure out what we really need. Because I had 3 cabinets in my kitchen that were for food, for dry goods and crackers and cookies and cereal. And as soon as I got rid of all that food, it's like, well, you have 3 cabinets now that you can have pots and pans in or a new appliance. I got an Instapot. I do listen to you, Chef
Oh,
AJ. It's
thank
like,
you.
I'm like, I'm getting an Instapot. She's got one. So I have some of the basic appliances. I'm saving my money right now to get the like next bump up in the Vitamix, like the food processor blender combination.
Mm,
So, and
nice.
thinking about doing the Breville air fryer.
Oh yeah,
So,
oh, that's what I would get before I'd get a blender. Honestly, I would.
okay.
Yeah.
Like I kind of have my little account here where I save money for the next item, that I want. So it's like, okay, you're gonna need that or you want that. So that's where we're headed with that. So I think I've gotten a little bit better about not just signing up for everything or taking everything. It's kind of like even I, with as much time as I have, don't, have all that time. And I think it's at the end of the slide.
Let's
I
see.
think that was
That
it.
is the last slide. I will stop share
Well,
because I'd
thank
love
you.
to ask you, what about exercise? Do you exercise? Did you exercise? Did that play a role in your journey at all?
Initially, no, because I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym, But I do walk. Again, I'm very blessed that there's a nature path about a mile and a half from my house. So I actually go down there on a pretty regular basis and walk that. It's just beautiful there. It's peaceful. I watch the seasons change. And then I joined a gym a couple weeks ago and have a trainer. I just started doing that because I realized I need to improve my balance and muscle tone, because there was a lot of extra stuff here. And now there's less of it, and I was almost considering doing skin removal surgery because there is skin hanging on me. But it's kind of like right now, let's just
Oh,
gotta, work on getting healthier and just accept that you've got a little extra stuff hanging on you. And I thought when I look at that picture, I think, well, hey, you really don't look like that anymore. So,
mm-mm.
so much better. But I am creative, so I did little kits. This was how I continue to help people. And I had like, whoop, it's showing there, like a little tomato paste that was organic. And I had little cards with a little food paper clip and my little card with all my social media on it. And then I just created like French fries and ketchup because I thought most people like fries and ketchup. And then on the back of this one, I've got the density thing. I thought everybody can understand that. And then all of those resources are on this little card. So you are on here, Chef AJ.
Yay, made the card.
You are on here. So I passed out, I worked on those and created them, and I passed out over 100 of these. And I actually had a little packet too with a little bit of the spice mixture you would put on the fries. So
Great
that
idea.
was something I did. And then everybody that first year got a designer Christmas card with my food on it. I thought, why should I look for a card when I can do a pretty one myself?
So
So
what's been the best part about losing 70 pounds?
the best part is like life is so much more interesting and fun. Life is so much more interesting and fun. I had always this dream trip of going to Australia. And I realized you're never going to get to Australia with, carrying 70 pounds. You won't be able to do the tours. You won't be able to walk up and down steps or any of that. And so, I now feel like that's a trip that can happen.
It's funny because Esther Loveridge, I don't know if you've seen her on my show a few times. She's the lady that lost 140 pounds. She waited till she was 70. And it wasn't even because she had any disease or medication, it was because her knee hurt and she wanted to travel. That's a big motivator for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Well, the whole seatbelt thing, I had gotten it down to this very slick little, very discreet. I would step on the plane and say, may I have a seatbelt extender? And they would hand it off. I would just tuck it in and walk right back to my seat. So no one ever knew I needed that extender. And then I took a picture when I came back from the retreat of me with the seatbelt on and no extender, and sent this picture to my sister. And she's like, "Why are you sending me a picture with you?" And it's because it's just the shot of the seatbelt and my legs, you know.
Yeah.
And
I know
I
that's gotta
thought,
be rough. I was on a plane yesterday and the lady next to me had to ask for one, and
yeah,
feels,
yeah, it was just hard. It's a horrible feeling to
yeah.
have to. The first time it was like, they go up and get one. It's almost like they announce they're getting one. They walk it, showing it to everybody. And I thought,
Oh,
so I had that down really very slick. It was like, I'll take one now and let me go back to my seat. And so when I did not need one, it was like, and I could cross my legs, which again, a lot of people who are thin don't realize heavy people can't cross their legs easily.
yeah.
So things like that, it's kind of like, and my first shopping trip for clothes was fun because it was kind of like the lady was like, "Well, what size you wear?" I was like, "Well, I don't know what size I wear."
You tell me.
I said, "You tell me what size I wear."
Do you ever worry you'll gain it back?
Every now and then, I think not for me because it was such an ugly part of my life. It was negative. It was, I didn't think well. Just so many things about it I didn't like. It's like this is a lot more fun. This is a lot more fun and interesting.
During your journey, did you have any slips and slides or what I like to call snacksidents? If you did, how did you get back on track? And what advice do you have people to get back on track?
My slips are because I would say technically I have not slipped, but my slips are that I will still overeat. It's just healthy food. One of my sweets now is this fruit oatmeal bake. That first year I made it a lot. I made it a lot. I made it pretty regular, and I just kind of ate my way through the year with that. Since then, I've kind of, backed off a little bit. It's like, okay, let's make it quarterly or let's make some for the holidays. I discovered sun-dried figs at Costco in a 3-pound bag. And that's my favorite treat. So again, I will get those when I really feel like I'm desiring, something sweet. I will get them and I will eat them.
Oh,
And
do you
sometimes I emotionally beat myself up about it, and other times it's like, you know what? I'm going to eat these and enjoy them.
Good for you. Do you eat pretty much consistently the same types of meals every day, or do you like to rotate things? Like, can you take us through, like, people love to know, what does Shelley eat in a day?
Shelley eats steamed vegetables for breakfast, sometime lunch and dinner that day if I just do a big pot. Usually a big salad for lunch. And my salads usually have about 10 to 12 ingredients. There'll be like 2 or 3 lettuces, tomatoes, cauliflower, broccoli, onions, carrots, beets will be in there. So I tend to do a big mixture of multiple vegetables, and it either is getting steamed or roasted, and then the big salads, and then I'll do that fruit salad thing, especially throughout the summer. I'll make that several times. I'm okay with eating the same thing several days in a row. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I could never do that," and I'm like, it's too much work to make, like, this on Monday and that on Tuesday and that on Wednesday. I'm kind of like, no, I'm okay with eating the same roasted vegetables 3, 4 days in a row because I'm about efficiency. Like I have those big trays, so I just lay out a massive amount of food all chopped up on it. I'm prepping, like maybe Monday for a couple of hours, and then it's all going on a tray, and then I can eat for, 3, 4 days without doing any work.
Do you do any kind of batch cooking?
Yep, that is my batch cooking. I do. I'm trying to think, and I don't have a picture of mine, but I have like the big flat low baker trays that are about that size. I'll have 2 of them full of food, and then they both go in the oven, and then that's usually gets me through like 3, 4 days worth of eating. And I just switch up with what the vegetables are. I mostly do the shopping at a local farmer's market. They now kind of know me. It's kind of like at first I went there and I said to the guy, I'm gonna need like a lot of food every week. And I asked because it's an Amish farmer and he's got Amish ladies helping him prep the food. And I said, could I get some of this stuff chopped up and like ready to go? And he was like, oh yeah, yeah. And I said, okay, next Friday I'll be here. Can I have like 3 heads of cauliflower cut up, the Brussels sprouts trimmed? And he was like, yeah. And I showed up and he didn't have any of it ready. I thought, well, I thought we agreed on this. And so I got the stuff that day. I just took home those items. And then the following week, I said, I'd like to have 3 heads of cauliflower cut up, 4 pounds of Brussels sprouts trimmed. So I went back the following Friday and he still didn't do it. And I thought, you got one more time here with me to get this food prep. So I do not do all of the prepping. Certain things I don't mind cutting myself, but now some of it I just pay a little bit extra. And now it's 3.5 years that I've been going there. So I show up and they're like, Shelley, we've got your vegetables ready, and I'm like, great, thank you. So
Do you eat out and do you travel? And if so, how do you manage it?
I hardly eat out, and I did what one of the interviewers recommended. I went to there was a local restaurant near me, and a friend was coming into town, and so I went there a day ahead of time and said, can you feed me, and how are you going to feed me? And I actually took 3 of their salads and got them kind of mixed together and remove like the 2 things that were in each one of the salads that I wouldn't eat. And they were actually very nice and made it happen. And I got a big tasty salad that next night when I went for the meal. So I will go back to that restaurant again. I'm a little leery of other restaurants. When I travel, I prep. I just prep and cook, and I've got little locked containers and my big lunch bag, and it all goes with me. And my favorite travel meal is potatoes and peas. I do potatoes and peas. I'll buy a big thing of carrots. I'll buy a thing of small mini peppers and a stalk of celery, and I'll get all that stuff chopped up. And I try not to do nuts too much, but if I have to get on a plane, I will take nuts with me because that does help me like be on a plane and be out all day that it takes to get to another place on the planet.
Nice. What do you say to anyone who's maybe hesitant to try this lifestyle or given up hope that they could, get off their medications and
Like,
wait?
don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. This is doable. There's a lot of things, forces that are trying to stop you from doing it, but make up your mind and get some information and take a step. And I will be glad to try to help someone.
Well, if people want to get in touch with you, Shelley, can they follow you on social media? Do you have a
Yes,
website?
yes, they can. I have the social media, and Chef AJ, again, I can send
Yes,
that.
everything you'll send me, we'll put
Yeah,
in
I'll
the show
just
notes.
send you. Yeah. Yep, I can do that. So
Well, congratulations. Everyone
thank
loves a good
you.
success story. You should be very proud of yourself.
Yep, I'm like, just please consider doing something for your health and for you. It'll be a challenge, but you will come out on the other side so much better, happier, healthier, more positive, more energy. It does happen. It does happen. So
Amen. I just noticed your beautiful quilt behind you. But I mean, I noticed it, but
I
I
know,
just noticed that it's
I know that's my food quilt. It's hard to find food fabric that doesn't
beautiful.
have fries or coffee or pizza on it. It took a while, but I was determined to find food fabric and make myself a couple of things. So,
Well, if you did write a book, what do you think you'd call it?
I don't know. I have a blank on that. I titled my article in the magazine "Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired," so that might
Good
be a
one.
title.
That's a
That
good
might be a
one.
title. So,
Thank you so much, Shelley.
well, thank you, Chef AJ. This was very cool.
I No, it was great. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for another fabulous guest.